Chapter 2, now that we've talked about different types of data and measurements of data from Chapter 1, let's look at describing data, Chapter 2. All right, so remember, what does statistics tell us? We use it to infer something. Remember when I said it's the language of business. Businesses take data. They work hard to get the data. Remember, the world's not short of data. We arrange that data so that it gives us a meaningful and impactful decision or information to make the decision. Okay, so how would we take it? And when we talk about arranging it, this is what we're going to refer to. All right, first off, a frequency table. All right, recall from Chapter 1, techniques we use to describe data. We talked about descriptive. All right, descriptive statistics organize data to show the general patterns of data, to identify where values tend to concentrate, and to report any outliers or any far and extreme points of data. So remember, when we describe, we're going to say, how does it all come together? Do we find it do we find it bunching up at some point? Do we see it all being drawn together, populations, or do I see it really spread out? Okay, a frequency table. And again, if you're in the textbook, I'm starting on page 18, and I will just be walking right through. All right, a frequency table is a grouping of qualitative data into mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive classes showing the number of observations in each class. What does it mean when I say mutually exclusive? Because I promise you're going to see these terms, mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, in every stats class you take and every economics class you take. Remember, if it's mutually exclusive, it's either yes, no. If it's yes, it can't be no. There's one bald male in this classroom tonight. Yes?
Yes.
I shaved today. Yes. Okay, now, I can't be bald and have hair at the same time.
That's the Georgia
Put a wig on.
All right, so when we say something is collectively exhaustive, just remember it includes every point. So it contains all the data. And remember, if I have all of the data and it's either yes or no, I can classify everything. All right, so a frequency table, a grouping of qualitative data into mutually exclusive and collectively exhausted classes. All right, so look at the bottom of page 19, and you see an example from the Applewood Auto Group. And if you notice, you see location. And the number of cars. All right, so Applewood, this auto group, this is one of your data sets too that you'll be able to use in your final. All right, so they operate 4 locations. In Kane, in Olean, in Sheffield. And what's the 4th location? All right, how many cars did they sell in Kane? 52. How many did they sell in Olean? 40. How many in Sheffield? 45. I won't. T-I-O-N-E-S-T-A. Tanesta. 43. All right, now you are known right here that the total number of cars sold was 180. Now, if a car was sold in Kane, would that same car have been sold in Olean? No. That's the part that's mutually exclusive. A total of 180 cars were sold. And that 180 is represented up here. That becomes the collectively exhaustive portion. Now, if I want to talk about a relative frequency, we can add one more chart here. What percentage of cars were sold in Olean?
This number.
22%.
Well, how would I get that number?
You said Olean.
How do you get it?
40 divided by 1.
40 divided by 180.
40 divided by 180 is 22, is that what I heard?
20%.
22%. 52 divided by 180.
About 29%.
Approximately 29%, depending on how you're rounding. And we could go back and input this for Sheffield. How about Sheffield?
25%.
25%. And lastly, 24%. Now, I realize due to rounding, this might not come to exactly 100%, but you should be able to recognize the way that it's going down. I mean, it should come up to 180. You should be able to arrange it. All right, now the most, so we call this a frequency. And then this becomes the relative frequency when we add that last component. Okay, another representation of statistics. Actually, the most common form. The most common graphical form to present a qualitative variable is a
Bar chart.
a bar chart. Has everyone seen a bar chart?
Yep.
Remember, you're going to have something here, 0 to 100, and we're going to have something like this. You with me? Does everyone know how to complete a bar chart in Excel? I'll give you a quick, go back and look at my tutorial. Contact me for help. Easiest thing, go up in Excel and hit insert. You're going to see bar. Another form, a pie chart. And what's unique about a pie chart? All right, let's go back to geometry real quick. What's the circumference? Let's just say this. What's the area of this circle? And I'm going to assume that's a perfect circle.
380, isn't it? Something like that.
Okay, so we'll say it's 360. But if I showed you this right now, if I ask you what portion would be contained inside of this,
100%.
we're going to say it's 100%. Let's put this in here. So when I come up to a pie chart and I quarter it, I know that each quarter is worth 25%. All right, so whenever I want to use and show something's relationship to the whole, or 100%, I'm going to use the pie chart. Now go back to that last frequency distribution where I had 22, 25, 24%. Remember, 100% would be the 180 cars that I sold. I could carve up my pie chart to show by location. And you think about that. If I come up, when we talk about inferring, you know, if we've got a pie, if we got a bar graph here, and let's really make this up. There's my first bar, and that's my second bar. And I just tell you this is money. Without anything else, which one are you going to recognize that you lean more toward? The big one. That's the descriptive side of it. It tells you, just think of snapping a picture. It tells you a picture. If I show you that I own 2 locations and I'm selling cars, and this was location 1, this is location 2. Do I have to tell you who sold more cars?
No.
If I'm a business owner and I own these dealerships, I mean, do you think I probably want to visit here and say, why are your numbers so low? Why are you not taking up a larger portion of the pie? If I'm this person, and I think I want to ask, hey, why am I not up here? I not want to be up there, I don't know. That becomes the descriptive side of it. All right, I want you to flip over to page. Here's where the rubber's going to meet the road. All right, what we're going to look at here. On page 25, constructing frequency distributions. So remember, we just looked at a frequency table. Now we're going to look at constructing a frequency distribution. Okay, your frequency distribution. A group of quantitative data into mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive classes showing the number of observations in each class. So remember, it's mutually exclusive. And collectively exhaustive. So when we create this frequency distribution, we're going to group quantitative data into mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive classes showing the number of observations in each class. Okay, so let's look at the example. Ms. Catherine Ball of the Applewood Auto Group wants to summarize the quantitative variable profit, all right, quantitative variable profit with a frequency distribution and display the distribution with charts and graphs. With this information, Ms. Ball can easily answer the following questions. 1, what is the typical profit on each cell? 2, what is the largest amount of profit on any cell? What's the smallest profit on any cell? And at what point do the profits seem to cluster? Okay, here's someone who's responsible for probably setting the price of the dealers of the cars sold at each location. She's going to be pulling this data as a way of making an informed decision on what price to set. Now, real quick, I always have to interject this. You that had me in class before, what is the chief end? What is the chief end of the entrepreneur? What's the chief goal of the organization?
Make a profit.
What did you say?
Make a profit.
Make a profit, I hear, but the person who had me in class before says? Maximize profit. We just don't want to make a profit, you want to maximize the profit. So this is why she's asking this question. All right, to begin, let's look at the profit for each of the 180 vehicles. So if you will refer to top of page 26. You see in table 2.4 the profits on all 180 vehicles sold. All right, so that I can, I'm not going to write 180 vehicles up here. But the book identifies what is my maximum profit.
$32.92.
And what's my minimum profit?
$294.
$294. I can tell you that from the textbooks, you're using the 16th edition here. 17th edition just rolled out. I've used this textbook since the 13th edition. I can tell you that I find it really useful if you pay attention to these problems that are contained in the textbook and follow the steps that the author outlines. I think they do it in a very good and concise way. And so let's look at step 1. Describe the number of classes. Okay, what's it tell us to do? A useful recipe to determine the number of classes. Now, the number of classes we are going to denote with a subscript K is 2 to the K rule. So look at what I've done. I've got the number 2, and I'm raising it to the K power. K is going to represent the number of classes. All right, the guide suggests that 2 to the K power, in other words, 2 raised to the power K, is greater than the number of observations. And how many observations do I have?
180.
180. So the book is going to suggest, and I suggest, that when you raise 2 to the K power, that number be greater than n. And n is the number of observations. All right, so let's look at this. If I take the numbers, if I say K is 7, what's my answer? So if I come in here and I say 2 raised to the 7th power, what is that? 128. Is that greater than?
180.
Is it greater than 180? No. So I wouldn't use 7. What if I take 2 to the 8th power?
256.
256. Is that greater?
Yes.
All right.
No, 256, yeah.
Then 8 is the number that we would go with. Step 2. Determine the class interval. Generally, the class interval is same for all classes. So the interval, whenever I set the interval of these 8 classes, it's going to be the same. Classes are taken together. Things to keep in mind that whatever classes, when you pull them together, you should ensure that they encompass your full range of data. So in this example, we know that our range is 294 to 3,292. So whenever I set my range, I want to be sure that I'm able to include these full points, that full range. Make sure you use clear numbers. For instance, if you're setting your range at $100, you wouldn't want to say 200 to 300 and 300 to 400, because where would you classify 300? It could be in either class. All right, so in order to determine the class interval, we say that I is greater than or equal to what? The maximum value minus the minimum value divided by what?
Eight.
K, or 8. So my maximum value, 3,292, minus my minimum value, 294, divided by K, or 8, gives me remember, we could set this up. Just like that.
Can I ask them a question?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me the purpose of what we do?
We're given 180 data points. We're given 180 profits on a. We sold 180 vehicles. We have 180 amounts of profit on each vehicle. And I'm trying to arrange those in an order that I can make a decision off of. Right now, if you just look in your textbook, you just see them. They're not arranged in any type of order.
So the whole process of the four step here, the purpose of the we do it for the 4 step here is what you talk about.
Correct. I'm doing it for this auto. Go back to the problem and see what she's trying to answer. What is the typical profit on each cell? What's the largest or maximum profit on any cell? What's the minimum profit on any cell? And do the profits tend to cluster around any range? All right, step 3. What's step 3? Set the class limits. All right, let me point out right here that if you come up with a number that is 300, like this, $374.75, you're going to want to round this up to some, this is where your interpretation comes in, to some meaningful level. In this case, the book's going to round it up to $400 because that seems to be the next relevant roundup. If I was going and working with data points that were in the trillions, I'd probably raise it up to a lot higher number. But you just wouldn't want to take that up to 375. One, it would be very difficult to split 375 into eight ranges. So step 3, what is the minimum? If I round this, and we're out of time right now, so I want to be very quick. If I round this to 400, using $100 limit, what's as low as I can go and still encompass this number? 200. All right, so my first limit is going to be 200. And then I just said they were going to be 400 units, $400 wide. So 200 to 600. And then to 1,000. Then to 1,400. $1,800, $2,200, $2,600, $3,000, $3,400. And if I take it to 3,400, I'm sure to capture that top point. Now look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, all we do is go in and count how many profits ranged from $200 to $600. So step 4 is to tally. Finally, the 5th step is going to be to count your tally marks. So if you look in the textbook, we have tallied in this range. How many do they show?
8.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, those are your tallies. And I can tally that in counting and say that is 8.
How did you come with that 8?
Because there's 8 things between 200 and 600. It's in the chart on the
It's in the chart if you look in your textbook.
It's,
If you count it right here,
counting the range that he
you're
has.
going to find 8 levels of profit within this range.
Okay.
All right, now just continue to do this for each one of these ranges.